Jackie Robertson here with my friend Robert Schwenkler, who is the founder of the Brotherhood community. And last week, Robert and I were talking about my group, the Sisterhood, and we wanted to take some time and space today to talk to you all about Robert's Brotherhood and his business, The Authentic Dating Secrets. So welcome, Robert.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. I'm great. Excited to talk with you.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It seems we have some things in common, and one of which was sort of how we met back in 2017 at Byron Katie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Robert, what I'm really wanting is to share about your work, your community, your group. You know what you guys are up to in the Brotherhood, and helping our audience really understand. I'm really curious. I want to know the why about this group, and I'm also kind of curious about how this group formed, and then get into sort of, what it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, that gets into my personal story, and on some level, I have really no answer because there are plenty of guys who've had their own versions of their similar experiences of waking up to their internal landscape, diving into their healing process, recognizing the power of men's groups and of brotherhood in the kind of way that I've experienced it and that we create it in the Brotherhood community. Plenty of guys who do that and never go on to lead it. So I don't know exactly how. All of us have different callings, but it has opened up as my journey forward to provide these kinds of spaces for guys to get to let go of all the layers that we wear around that keep ourselves small, keep ourselves disconnected from our truth and from what it is that we really want to create in the world, whether that what we want to create is in our professional lives or in our personal lives or in our love lives. So there's a bit of a question mark that I can't tell you exactly why me versus some other guy. But what I know is that men's community is super important. There's so much messaging in our culture that keeps men alone and isolated from each other. And I could go on for hours about all the costs that men incur from this. If this conversation here is about our love lives, then there's huge costs in terms of not having a really solid group of dudes to lean upon. Ends up meaning that the emotional stuff that you're carrying and that you're working with, which you are carrying and working with or not working with, is going to end up getting dumped on your primary romantic relationship, and it is not going to help. It's going to harm.
Yeah.
So being in brotherhood is critical to having a really thriving love life, to put it really simply.
Right. And what a bonus. Um, there's a couples therapist, Esther Perel, and she talks about this. She's really looks at modern relationships and how what once used to be sort of the support of a whole community, a whole tribe, is now, as you're saying, it's like we hyper focus onto that other. So maybe you could share a little bit about the piece with Authentic Dating Secrets and how that sort of ties into relationship and helping men, and I'm assuming women in relationship.
Yeah. So Authentic Dating Secrets is our answer to the PUA industry. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it means pickup artist. This is a whole kind of like sector and culture of male culture that's less active now, but that's got a really bad name for itself around men teaching other men how to get what they want from women, how to use kind of like their subconscious hooks that are present in all women and all men to get what we want out of them, whether that's a phone number, a date, sex, whatever it is. It's got a really strong negative name for being manipulative, and there's a lot of truth to that. There are men who've gotten great things out of it. I don't want to totally minimize that. And the work that we're doing with men here is kind of our answer to that. This is saying we want to teach men how to get extraordinary results in their love lives. We want men to be buried in the amount of intimacy, connection, sex, whatever it is that they crave. with women. And we want that to be happening in a way that's fully above board, fully consensual, and in a way where everybody's just celebrating the heavens for how amazing and delicious it is, everybody involved. And that really is the fundamental premise of the work that we're up to here, is helping men create extraordinary love lives that also feel really good and extraordinary to the women that they connect with, whether it's a single conversation or it ends up becoming a long-term relationship. And what I want to say that, while PUA methods and tactics may teach you how to get somebody, get a phone number, get a woman, get sex, whatever it is, the methods that they oftentimes teach are actually fundamentally poisonous to a long-term intimate relationship. What we teach is how guys can create, we teach fundamentals of intimacy in the dating context. And these fundamentals are going to be useful the entire way through the relationship, no matter how long you're in it.
Right. And one of the questions I was bringing to this talk today, or thinking of, is, I'm really noticing and aware of the last, I'd say 5 years, these, for lack of a word, I'm calling them conscious men's groups and the men's work in the communities. And I see them popping up everywhere. And you are located in Santa Monica. Kind of, right.
In transition.
But, in transition. But you're on the group, the community is online essentially.
Yeah. I mean, my co-founder is up in the Bay Area. I've been in Santa Monica, LA for the past 5 years.
Right.
So there's some stuff we do in person. Our work with men around dating as a virtual space. So we've got guys from all around the country who come and join us to up-level their love lives.
Right. And what I'm hearing you highlight is because the question I had coming in was what's different about your group? Because I'm seeing, and I've talked to some of the men from these other groups, and I'm really curious to understand sort of the highlight and what's different. And as a woman and doing the women's work, how men are kind of looking at themselves, and kind of maybe even you could take us through a sample of what it might kind of look like, or.
Yeah. Well, let me answer that by starting with what kind of guy we typically work with.
Yeah.
In Authentic Dating Secrets. So the kind of guy that we typically work with is the kind of guy who's really good at he's typically pretty good with his emotions. He's sensitive. He's a feeler. And he is also kind of, because of that, he's really good at being overly careful with women. He's really good at thinking that any expression of his desire is going to come across as creepy or intrusive or potentially even harmful to women. He's really good at bringing the heart energy and the friend connection energy. And he's also really good at disowning his sexual desire. And we need to kind of keep that covered up. That's not okay to let out. The world can't really see that. It's not going to be okay. And paradoxically, we hear this from a bunch of women. They tell us that the kind of guy who I don't want to approach me typically does. This is the kind of cocky, stereotypical alpha asshole dude. And the kind of guy that I do want to approach me doesn't. And this is the guy that I'm talking about that we work with. He's the more heart-centered dude whose attunement is actually online, who actually can be present with and tune into a woman, but his potency isn't online. He doesn't trust himself. He doesn't trust his sex. He doesn't trust his desire. And he doesn't trust that it's wanted, which is really counter to my experience in talking to most women. And that kind of leads into some of the fundamental pillars of this work that I would love to get into, but I want to hit the pause button there and see just what's coming up for you as you hear all of that.
Yeah, I mean, as a woman and, doing the women's work and connecting with people individually in my private practice, I mean, it's all about relationships, everything that you're talking about, right? So, and yes, I identify with that. It's like the alpha man, but then this other piece that's missing, right?
The
The
sensitivity and the attunement is missing.
Yes. And for, like the it's not balance isn't the word, but I'm going to use it. The balance between the masculine and the feminine, right?
Mhm.
Not being about gender per se, but like that energy,
Mhm.
right? Because there's a time and place for that. And I notice when I'm in my masculine versus feminine and kind of just like what I want from another, the opposite sex for me. So maybe, I don't know if you can speak a little bit more to that. And then I'm really curious to know about these pillars.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm going to say some stuff that I have heard from women. I'm not just making this up. Obviously, this is not all women. There's different levels and flavors. So I can't put this on any woman, every woman at all. But I found that it tends to be true, certainly in the women in my circle, and you can give your own input. So what I've heard from more women that I can count is that they want a guy who's confident but not cocky.
Yeah.
And they want also, seemingly paradoxically, they want a guy who's sensitive but not like a pushover or too mushy. And so what does it mean to hold this balance between confidence and sensitivity, to be able to take the lead strongly and confidently and go after what you want, without being like so scared of it all that you don't actually do anything?
Yeah, that I think that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Like you said, not we can't say all women, but I think a lot of women are looking for that. And I then also go back to the work, which is what you're talking about. I think it's like the work on our internal self, the relationship we have with self.
Yeah. Yeah, for
And what we,
sure.
yeah.
And that work around self is one of the things that also distinguishes us from, so you asked me what distinguishes us.
Right.
That could be a whole conversation. I want to say that um, the way that one way that I distinguish any kind of internal work, including men's work, is that on one hand, you can have it be super masculine, like really hard edged, really about accountability, really about integrity, really about taking action, making the commitments and doing the things. On the other hand, you can have over here in the other realm, the more emotional realm of really going inside and processing and feeling your feelings, getting support and feeling connected.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those are really important things. There are different groups and different communities that fall, some strongly over here, some strongly over here, and then some that are somewhere more in the middle of the spectrum.
Right.
So what we intend with this group is that we hold a strong integration of both, because we're clear that the dudes that we're working with need to really come into their authentic potency and confidence, as well as increased levels of sensitivity and awareness. And part of that is an internal process of undoing the layers of shame around their masculinity, the layers of fear around their masculinity. Some of the guys we work with have been really damaged in relationship. They're coming from divorce and they're just feeling fucked up about it. And there's some healing work that needs to be done to trust themselves and to trust women again. So the inner work needs to be done. And then guys need to get out there and go take some action. They need to stretch themselves. They need to connect with women in a way that they don't normally. Where for us, in our model, we design into the program what we call life experiments that are about getting these guys to go out there and interact with women in ways that they're not used to, that are coming from a foundation of giving, not trying to get, but going out there and saying, what can I give of my attention and my presence and my experience to this woman that I am finding in front of me in a way that's going to really light her up and make her day.
Right. Right. And I really like that you said that, because I was sitting in meditation yesterday and there was this clear message of, the giving to get versus giving just because it's from heart, it's from our soul, it just without expectations, which is very paradoxical in the kind of society that we live in. And so I think that's for me anyhow, that feels really important to just sort of highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do we get there, again, goes into the conversation around these fundamental pillars of our work. So unless you've got any other questions, maybe I'll start to go there.
Yeah. No, I would like to hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you're talking about, how do I go out there and just give selflessly while at the same time holding the fact that I want connection with a woman or with women in my life? It's how do we hold paradox in this kind of way, kind of selfless desire? What we call it is desire without demand, and helping guys embody that, not just get it intellectually. Mm-hmm. It's an easy concept to get for most of us up in the head, but how do I really embody that and show up in the world with that selfless confidence that's just super honest but doesn't need anything? Mm-hmm. That's a whole other game, and that ultimately is what we're here to teach dudes how to do. Go ahead.
Right. So, and I understand what you say. And I think like we understand like the cognition, like I get it versus I get it, I embody it.
Yeah.
And I think you have a somatic background as well.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate a little bit more as to like what that means? What does it look like to get it versus to embody it?
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of set that context, and I'll go into the pillars, and that kind of informs, on a high level, what our process is to take men from point A to point B. And again, this is what the program is for. It's until you've really experienced it and lived it, it's an idea, but right. My intention here is to hopefully provide a bit of a roadmap to help guys, because it is kind of an abstract thing. Well, how do I get to this place of supreme confidence where I can go out and really seek what I want and do it in a demandless way that feels really good to women? And here's the high level of how we work with guys to hopefully fill in some of the blanks. So there are 3 fundamental pillars to getting from point A to B in our work, and they are comprised of owning your value, claiming your desire, which is desire without demand, and then understanding her world. So I'll break these down real quick. So owning your value basically ties into what I was just saying in terms of we give men these assignments to go out there and interact with women in a way that really enriches their lives. Mm-hmm. Owning my value means that on a fundamental level, I as a man know that I'm valuable, that my presence and my attention are valuable gifts that I get to offer to the women in my life, to everybody. We're talking about dating though. And that when I've gone inside and I've done my inner work around self-worth, around shame, around my masculinity, around just wounding that I've taken on over the course of my life, I realize that there's no such thing as rejection. Fear of rejection is a big thing for our guys, and it's completely false. Our hope is that the guys we guide through this journey come to really not just get that intellectually, but really see that rejection is an illusion, that you can't be rejected. If I go out there and I put myself out and I offer myself in some kind of a way, I offer a compliment or I open up a conversation with a woman and she doesn't receive it, I'm not being rejected. It's just, she just doesn't want to receive it. If I'm walking around with a $50 Amazon gift card and I offer it to somebody and they don't want it, I'm not going to get all butthurt about it and be like, oh, there must be something wrong with me. And this $50 must be worth negative $50. In fact, it's like, no, I go on and I go seek out another person who's excited to receive the $50 Amazon gift card from me. So this is the process of owning our value, is recognizing that we've got beautiful things to offer the world around us. And we can both get in ourselves as well as allow the opportunity for somebody else to experience a lot of joy and pleasure in this process of relating. Mm-hmm. So that's owning your value. I don't want to go on. I want to give you a moment.
I just had a thought, and the way I often conceptualize people in relationships is coming from the attachment lens. And what you're talking about sounds to me like the secure attachment or the securely attached individual. Ideally, it sounds like I'm assuming if we look at attachment as a spectrum and sort of the ambivalent, anxious, preoccupied, and the avoidant, dismissive, those who didn't get their needs met early on in life, I'm assuming that there's probably a lot of that comes into the group, and then you're working with that. It's like becoming secure with self, so that like exactly like you're saying, when whatever you say to me, I'm not taking it personally, and it's not becoming my identity or my confirming my core beliefs.
Yeah. And what I want to say is that having access to that groundedness and that centeredness and that sense of self opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah.
And one of the guys in our last round of the training gave this amazing example where he was walking around the track and there was this woman that was catching his eye and he wanted to connect with her. And he passed her once and tried to make eye contact. She didn't. He passed her another time, tried to make eye contact. She didn't. Third time around, she made eye contact. And he said, I forget exactly how it goes. He may have said something, but after the third time, he made some contact with her and opened up a conversation. He had a beautiful interaction with this woman. I don't know that some of the most fulfilling interactions for me are the ones that just happen and then we go on with our days. And I'm like, that just made my entire day better.
Yeah.
And that's what can happen when you don't take stuff personally. You learn how to read a clear no, and you're like, okay, she's not interested, I'm out of here. And you can also learn how to read like, I'm going to keep probing here and experimenting and seeing if there is something here until I get a clear no.
Yeah.
So that's owning your value. The second pillar is claiming your desire. And this one is big for a lot of our guys living in a world that, certainly for me, certainly for the guys that we have worked with, we've learned that our sexual desire and our masculinity is somehow inherently weird or creepy at best and harmful or dangerous at worst. And that in showing interest for a woman, we're going to come across as pushy or creepy or aggressive. And that happens, women get catcalled. There's the stereotypical alpha asshole dude who's just trying to get what he wants out of women and going from one woman to the next and just trying to get and force and push and, and so these guys so don't want to be that they've gone all the way to the other end of the spectrum. They've disowned their desire. They've disowned some of those beautiful and life affirming parts of them, I believe, actually, because here's the freaking truth is that women are really sexual beings also. This gets into understand her world. The thing is that women are really sexual beings for the most part. They have a lot of desire. What I've discovered is that women oftentimes have even darker and freakier desires than men once they feel safe to let it out. And this is the key.
Yeah.
Like this element of safety. And what's unsafe is a guy who hides his desire. What's unsafe is a guy who's not making his intentions fully known and leaves the woman guessing. And what does he really want? And like, I can't tell what's on the table here. What's his agenda? Like, am I on the right track here?
Yeah, I'm thinking about when I sense something going on in the field, like he's experiencing emotion, but then nothing's being said about it. And I'm left asking, and it's like, everything's fine. It's okay. And then I'm left feeling a little bit crazy and then insecure, right? It's not safe to interact. It's not safe to dialogue.
Yeah. And you can feel it, but you don't know what to put your finger onto because it's a felt sense, but there's nothing to put your finger onto.
Right. And especially if they don't know what's going on with their self,
totally.
which is like what you guys are teaching. It's like, how to identify what I'm experiencing so that I can interact in this way and be more open.
Yeah. So, understand her world says that women have a lot of sexual desire. They just need to feel safe. Claim your desire states that a guy who's not in full approval and full contact with his desire is actually unsafe. Like guys do this to become more safe. They suppress their desire to become more safe, and paradoxically it ends them up in the exact opposite.
Yeah, I totally can see that. Yeah.
So a guy who's coming to the table saying, you're really cute, I would love to interact with you a little bit more. I don't want to I just wanted to come and get to know you. I didn't want to impinge upon your time. Intentions are clear. A lot of the guys that we work with have experienced this thing that's called the friend zone. What's the antidote to that is to come to the woman friend saying, you know what, I have a huge crush on you and I would love to date you. I would love to kiss you. I would love to fuck you. Whatever is the honest truth and whatever is an attuned expression for the moment. And it's like, there might be moments where that's a little bit triggering to a woman, but you get into a space with a woman who's, relatively attuned and confident with her sexuality and knows how to navigate that space with men. you're just making it so easy for everybody. You're saying, here's what I want. I'm going to just put this on the table and you can make a fully informed decision about whether you want to consent or not. That's what this is about, is a consent conversation in many ways. I'm giving you the opportunity to opt in or opt out fully consciously.
Right. And it sounds like open, clear, honest communication versus all this dancing around.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't be open, clear, and honest if I've got shame around my masculinity and my sexual desire.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's claiming your desire. And the thing that happens is, as we unshame our desire and we are able to just put it out there more openly and honestly, and as we've owned our value and we don't take it personally and get all butthurt when we get rejected or get a no or get a this or that, is we end up inhabiting our lives in this way that is just really relaxed and really confident, and that is largely free of demand. I'm not really requiring or expecting anything from the woman. And the paradox around that is that it gets me so much more of what I want.
Yeah.
Her so much more of what she wants too. So it's kind of this weird catch-22 place. It's like, how do I get to a place where I'm feeling inner abundance and experiencing outer abundance so that I can show up more demandless? And part of that is about taking the external actions, going and creating the dates. Part of that is doing this internal excavation so that I'm not bringing all the baggage to the table. And beautiful things happen when men step into that kind of a space with the intention to really do all of that.
Right. And I'm also hearing, and we touched on this in our talk last week, was when we're able to give to ourselves and meet those needs, like, we're not being so like, I need this from you, right? It's not desperate. It's like, I would love this, but there's that coming from that sort of source of security.
You can tell me if this is true for you. This is a leading question. This is more of a statement than a question, but
okay.
There are very few things that are more of a turnoff than a super needy guy. Am I right?
Yeah. And I think the same I hear from men is true, right? The needy woman, which I name as the anxious, preoccupied, attached woman, because again, right, going back to that early life experience of not having our needs met. I really want to make sure that the community gets to know about how they can get in touch with you, where they can find you, that information.
Yeah, totally. AuthenticDatingSecrets.com. It's really easy. We have a webinar that we've created for any guy who's interested in learning more about what we're up to. And it breaks all of what I'm talking about here down into more detail, provides a more clear roadmap around how you can get from point A to point B. And at the end of the webinar, there's an option to jump on a phone call with myself or my co-founder, Joshua, to get a little bit of one-on-one coaching for your specific situation. And for the guy who's interested in really diving deep and embodying these things, desire without demand, this level of confidence, this level of man mojo and attractiveness, we can lay out a roadmap on the table of what it looks like to do that deeper work with us in the full 11-week program. And it's a good webinar. Guys have gotten a lot of value out of it.
Great.
Yeah.
And maybe just anything else that our listeners would want to know about your work, the community.
As the first thing that comes up to mind is, I just love doing this. It's so fun. It's so fun getting to see. I'm super passionate about it. The idea that guys get to transform in front of my eyes and get these extraordinary results. There's one man in the last round of our program who is already, like, in certain ways, he's in a good place in his life. He's a pretty good looking dude. He's got some things going for him. It's also been a year since he's had sex. He's struggling with self-confidence and self-worth stuff, not getting many matches in online dating. And through simply our initial conversation, he started taking what I offered him and really seeing the places where he was not owning his value, making some shifts in his dating profile, making some shifts in how he was interacting with women. And all of a sudden he messages me back 2 weeks later. And he's like, Robert, I got all of these amazing matches with these women. Like 2 more weeks later, he's like, I'm going on dates with all these amazing women. We just got done with the program, and he's starting to dive. He's learned a lot about himself also. He's learned a lot about his desire to experiment and play and get to experience other women sexually, which is an important part of the process oftentimes for men and for women. And if we don't own that desire, we kind of get stuck there. And my experience, again, with men and women is that once we let ourselves really inhabit our desire for exploration, we get to find out what we want. We get to find out what we don't want. And this guy got super clear in many ways around what he wants and what he doesn't want. And right now he's starting to dive deeper with this woman that actually, totally unbeknownst to us, Joshua and my co-founder who I run the program with, started dating a woman that both he and I know fairly well, who's just incredible woman, super embodied, super deep into intimacy work, just an amazing woman. And she was telling Joshua, she's like, this guy's 25, by the way. She's like, I don't usually date guys this young, but there's something about this guy. And he's getting to just dive deeper with this really incredible woman. And it's amazing to get to witness this process and see him really diving deep into intimacy in a way that he really wants and that she really wants.
Yeah, the reward of that.
And I love doing that. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's not work, it's fun.
Yeah. And there's a lot of guys who are hesitant about stepping into this realm and doing this kind of work. And on one level, I get it. And on another level, I'm like, God, there's so much available on the other side. It is absurd how good life gets to be. It is absurd how good sex gets to be, relationship gets to be. And it's like, it's all available to the extent that you're willing to just dive in. Yeah.
To find that courage really is, I think it's courageous to do that.
Totally. Yeah. It's one of the most manly things you can do, is really step in and confront your own inner demons and overcome them and create an epic love life for yourself. How masculine is that, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Excellent. Cool. Well, thank you so much for hanging out today. And this was a lot of fun. And so again, AuthenticDatingSecrets.com is where they can find you.
Correct.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thanks, Robert.